Hello, I'm Dr. Burton. Welcome to Introduction to Philosophy. In this first video, I want to talk about a little bit about the class and what you should expect. Philosophy classes are a little more difficult than other classes insofar as you have to think. You have to think for yourself, and the answers aren't going to be just given to you. You're going to have to work for answers. So it's a class in which you will have to do self-examination. You'll have to figure out, what do I believe? And there are some disciplines I would suggest that go along with a class like this. One is read the material. I have provided handouts for you. Read the handouts at least 5 times. And it may be you read it twice, watch the videos, and read them again. Another thing I would suggest is taking notes. Take notes on what you hear, write down questions that you have, and keep a list of those questions, because those questions are questions that you're going to grapple with, probably not just in this class, but throughout your life. And I hope that I give you a lot of good questions to chew on in this class. Another discipline you might want to practice is quiet time for study. I know sometimes we like to study with our headphones on or with something in the background or with your friends. It may be a little helpful to just turn stuff off and listen to your thoughts and think. And exercise your mind. Just a suggestion. All right, so in this class, it will hurt your head, and that's good. It's like when you lift weights and your muscles start hurting, you're like, oh, I hurt. But it's a good hurt. That's what's going to happen with your head. It's going to hurt, and it's a good hurt. So here's what we hope to cover in this class. Philosophy is a discipline. It is the first discipline in the academy, and we'll talk about the history of that probably in the next video. And philosophy is the love of wisdom. So do you have wisdom? Do you know what wisdom is? And I will ask you questions like that a lot. And I'm not always going to answer them. And if I do answer them, I may be lying to you to get you to think. I won't lie to you about practical matters like what's on the test. I should also mention that my dog Kino is always here with me. I'll show you a picture of Kino at some point, but he's always here with me in these videos. He loves coming out here and helping me teach class. So if you hear breathing in the background or snoring sometimes, that's Kino. All right, so we're going to cover the 3 main areas of philosophy, and those include epistemology. Ooh, a new word, right? What do you do when you find a new word? Look it up. Epistemology. It is the Greek word for study of knowledge. So episteme, E-P-I-S-T-E-M-E. Episteme is knowledge in Greek. And we want to know, how do we know? Can we have knowledge? What is it? How would we define it? That will be the first quarter of our class. And we'll spend a lot of time with those kinds of questions. Epistemology. How do I know? One of the first main areas of philosophy. The second main area of philosophy builds on epistemology, assumes epistemology, and it's called metaphysics. Metaphysics is the area of philosophy that asks the question, what is real? Or what is eternal? What is ultimate reality like? And also in that is, what is a human being? What is human nature? So metaphysics is going to take about 2 quarters, half of our class. So epistemology first, then metaphysics, and then we'll look at the various ways humans have tried to answer that question, what is real? And then once we answer that question, what is real, we can go on to the third area of philosophy, which is ethics. Ethics asks the question, what ought I to do? Ethics asks, what ought I to do? It has to do with moral obligation. Ought implies moral obligation. Are we morally obligated to anything? And are morals objective or subjective? How would we get them? And so we'll look at various secular and non-secular approaches to answering the question, what ought I to do? Also, what is the good life? What is the good? Okay, so I've mentioned now the three main areas of philosophy. You should know these. Take notes. This looks like a great exam question. What are the three main areas of philosophy? So the first is epistemology. How do I know? The second, metaphysics. What is real? And the third, ethics. What ought I to do? There are other things we can study in philosophy, but those are the three main categories. And as we go into them, we're going to first start with the question, what is philosophy? So I will give you a list of questions, core questions, the first of which is what are the three main areas of philosophy, and you should keep track of the answers to these core questions in your notes, and the exams will be based on the core questions, and you may use your notes for the exam. So I'm really highly suggesting take notes and make a list of the core questions and the answers to the core questions. In class, what I suggest people do is make 3x5 note cards. These are like recipe box cards, little cards, and you put the question on one side, what are the three main areas of philosophy, and the answer on the other side. Epistemology, how do I know? Metaphysics, what is real? Ethics, what ought I to do? And then you carry those cards with you and you memorize them. You put it into your long-term memory. And this is because philosophy is going to be a discipline that grows and we build. So we need to have the grammar in our memory. So if you notice in my syllabus, I talk about my educational theory, which I stole from some medieval philosophers. And it begins with the grammar level of learning. The grammar level of philosophy is like the language, the definitions of terms that we use, the method that we use. And the grammar is so that we can have a common language together. Once we have the grammar, we could move on to the next level, which is called the dialectic, where we can have a dialogue now. We have the same ideas in our minds, the same definitions, and now we can converse together. And then the third level of education that we probably won't get to in this class, but I hope that you will in your life, in your educational pursuits, and that is the rhetorical level. The rhetorical level is where you get to put philosophy into your own words and your own expression. You build on what you've learned and you add something new now. Hopefully that's the level I'm at in teaching you. I have to learn how to communicate the ideas in a way that people will understand better. So grammar, dialectic, rhetoric. That's what we're going to be aiming for. This class is particularly focused on the grammar level. So there are some things I want you to memorize. And by memorize, I mean don't just put it on a piece of paper and spew it out on the exam. I want it in your long-term memory forever, so that when you see me one day out there in public somewhere, I could ask you, what is reason in itself? And you will know because you put it into your long-term memory and you have held on to it because it was valuable and important. Yeah, I promise I won't give you anything that is not valuable to memorize because, memory's hard. You have to work at it. And these are things that I've committed to my memory that I would also ask you to do the same. So you never know. One day you might be a teacher of this class and you have to know the stuff, right? Okay, so let's wrap up the very first video by saying today we talked about what to expect. You should expect to have to implement some discipline. I gave you some practical steps in doing that, note-taking, note card making, and the core questions will be coming your way. I'll always tell you this looks like a good exam question, and you should know the answer to it. Make a list of those questions, whether it's on paper or typed up or on note cards. I prefer note cards, but I don't know what you're doing. I can only speak to you from this side of the camera. And you should know the first question, what are the three main areas of philosophy? In the next video, we're going to talk about what is philosophy, and we'll build on those three main areas. All right, thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.